everybody, it's Kaitlin. Quick heads up, if you listened to last week's episode, you might be expecting to hear us discuss the 1963 horror classic, The Haunting. But like everybody else in the Western Hemisphere, Callie and I went and saw A Quiet Place, and we're so excited to talk about it that we just couldn't wait to put up the episode. So we're moving it up in our schedule. We could not resist the pull of bearded John Krasinski. Don't worry, we'll get our black and white on next week. But right now, here's A Quiet Place.
We'd like to begin this episode with a moment of silence in honor of the movie we watched this week, A Quiet Place. Shh. I can't do it. And this is why I would never survive in a land of sound hunting creatures.
True. Hi, Callie.
Hi, Kaitlin.
Hi, everybody. This is Scream Girls, the podcast. I'm Caitlin McKenzie.
And I'm Callie Goff.
We watched A Quiet Place this week, as you may have ascertained, because we told you explicitly.
If you didn't ascertain that, you're like me and find it hard to understand anything. What else is going on?
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's been so much time to watch so many things.
I
and
know.
No time at all. I watched, everybody's talking about Wild Wild Country, and watched it. I gotta say, you guys, I mean, I watched all 6 hours of it without a second thought, so, you know, take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, but I thought it was kind of boring, which is an unpopular opinion.
I think I'm not going to watch it.
I don't think you need to watch it. Well, I was telling you, I think it leaves out a lot of pretty crucial information. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about how badass they find the one character, Sheila, and how much they sympathize. It's like, nah, but she's a sociopath who poisoned people. Spoiler alert. I don't know. I think that...
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe her as a badass then, but...
No, I mean, she's entertaining, but...
Yeah, I think I'm going to skip it because you're now the third person to tell me it's meh, not great.
Yeah.
So...
Bummer.
Yeah, I watched Requiem, which is on Netflix, unlike Pinty Town, and it is a 6-episode series, horror series. It is a mix of The Killing, Happy Valley, and Broadchurch meets, what is that movie? The Awakening? That scary movie that takes place in that old school.
Oh, yeah, the school.
Yeah, yes. I would say it's like a mix of those types of things, so it's really like a horror show, which I can't really think of besides American Horror Story, like a horror series meets a crime series.
That's right up our alleys.
Yeah.
Sweet spot.
So I thought it was really good.
Okay. Is anybody in it?
It made me think of Uncle Jeff.
Okay. What about Uncle Jeff?
Because he liked a slow burn, some dread. He liked interruptions, commercial breaks.
Yes,
and since this was on Netflix, it had built-in interruptions. So you could pause that. You could watch an episode of what I've been calling Family in Space, but I think it's called Lost in Space. No, I've been calling it Experimental Space Family because Simon and I started to watch Lost in Space, not to go on and on about all the Netflix shit I'm watching, but I had a lot of downtime this weekend, and Simon and I were watching Lost in Space, and what I didn't enjoy about Lost in Space was that of course, I remember a little bit the show from when I was younger, but I don't remember in great detail why they're in space. And the show, I guess, sort of tells you all of that in flashback, but not soon enough for my liking. And so I was like, who are they, Simon? What are they? And he goes, they're an experimental space family. And I was like, what is that?
I'm pretty sure that's a very accurate, concise description, though.
I think it was.
From what I know about it.
And I think I just wanted more. And he eventually was like, stop asking so many questions.
You've reached that level of movie watching where you're just impatient to know the end. I'm that way, too, though.
Yeah.
I'm not, I can follow along, but I'm always just, I want to be more up to speed than the movie wants me to be.
Yeah.
I want to be ahead of the curve.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I don't have time for flashbacks.
I don't have time for a flashback. Parker Posey, what are you there for?
Once Parker Posey showed up, I was like, I'm in. Forget it, I'm in.
I didn't even realize she was in it. I saw a trailer for it.
She's excellent. Selma Blair's in it. And I was like, good, nailed it.
Selma's having a comeback.
But the experimental space family, I was like, who the fuck these people? I don't care.
I thought Parker Posey was part of the family. Is she not?
She is Dr. Smith, who is, according to Simon, evil. She, like, infiltrates the
it.
family, but she's always... I was like, was Dr. Smith evil in the original? And he was like, not really. Like, he was part of the family, but he was always sort of, like, undermining their plans. And always sort of, like, undoing their good work or whatever.
Well, Parker Posey is next level evil incarnate in, what's it called? Dazed and Confused. So it's only right that she should return to her roots.
And I love a little gender bend.
Oh, I love a gender bend. Especially, like, I saw in the trailer when she was like, it's Doctor. And I was like, yes!
Yeah.
Parker!
So that was good. That
Always
was
glad
good
to see her working.
So I'll continue watching them, only because my beloved watches it, and I can take a little nap during it.
Yeah, just wake up for Parker Posey's parts.
Exactly.
Well, that's a lot of stuff. You had a much better Netflix experience than I did this weekend, because I was sort of just slogging through that.
I think you should watch Requiem, and I think maybe we should talk about it.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe we should break form, yeah.
Maybe if we ever have a Patreon, it can be bonus content.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we ended up seeing A Quiet Place.
We did.
Which, thank God, because I don't know about you, but I felt like a Game of Thrones fan. I could not go on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere it was
stressful.
Like, so many articles, and in the headline it would be like, can we talk about that bathtub scene? And I'd be like, no.
Please
or it'd be like, why don't they wear socks in A Quiet Place? And I'd be like, shut up. I haven't seen it yet. So I literally was like, I have to go.
Yeah, we had to go. This movie is buzzy as fuck. Another reason
buzzy.
to go. But we've been talking about going since the first trailer came out.
That's true.
I feel like we were a little bit ahead of the game on being excited for this movie.
I guess it goes to show, what do we think it is? The great love of John Krasinski, or just people are really into horror these days?
No, I think it's the excitement of seeing J-Kraz in this new genre, a new kind of role. And I think the people are stoked about the premise of the movie. Like, it's a really interesting, compelling idea.
Yep.
And they managed to sell it in the trailer and in the press leading up to it. They managed to allay any fears people may have had about it being boring, I guess, because there isn't very much dialogue.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing that people ever seemed to be concerned about.
I was never concerned of it.
And look, I'm somebody who, when I was a kid and a Roadrunner cartoon came on, I was like, goodbye. I don't want to watch anything without dialogue.
I was like, draw the comparison.
I'm just bored without words.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that experience with this movie, which is probably a good time to say before we dive into this. We're going to recommend that you see this movie. Or I am. I don't know about you, Callie. We haven't discussed that. So if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, turn it off. Go become part of the zeitgeist. Watch the movie. Please don't let us spoil it for you, because there's some good twists.
Spoiler alerts as fuck from the jump. That's all I'm going to say.
So, yeah.
There's big ones, not to harp on about the spoiler alerts, but there's big ones from the beginning. Yeah. So go. In fact, let's just dive right in, because that reminds me of what might have been one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, but where do we start? We start in a pharmacy?
Yes, a grocery store, like a convenience store of sorts.
Post-apocalyptic.
Small town.
It's been looted. Look, I gotta say right after that, I love an apocalypse.
Me too.
I watched the first, however many seasons are there of The Walking Dead? 50 million. I watched the first 48 million of them. And I finally had to give up the ghost on that. But I did, I just love an apocalypse. I love to see what people are like in these situations. What are normal, regular, you and me human beings gonna do when they can't buy their shit at the grocery store? They have to just go ransack it.
Love it.
So that's where we begin.
So the very first thing I clocked, the chips. They're okay. So of course I noticed. God, embarrassing. But a full row of chips. And in my mind, I was like, what? These people are crazy not getting the chips. That would have been the first thing I took. And then I was like, oh, they probably went for the non-perishable foods or something, like the canned foods. Then, of course, I did some research afterwards, and it was like I read an article about the brilliant details you might have missed. They didn't eat the chips because they're too crunchy.
They're too fucking crunchy. That just clicked for me right before you said that. Oh, I wish I noticed.
That wasn't a good crunchy
one. That
one.
was not a good crunch. Cal just put a soggy chip in her mouth. There we go.
I'm going to be a Foley artist in this moment and crunch on these chips so we can really get the effect.
This is the kind of sound you're not going to hear in A Quiet Place because nobody's going for the chips.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this convenience store. We have a little boy running willy-nilly, barefoot, making me very nervous. I'm thinking he's going to crash into something and fall down.
Let's just talk. I mean, I will not spend this whole time criticizing the movie because I really liked it, but these children were much too unattended for my liking.
Especially the little one.
It's only day 89 at the beginning.
Did they have that title card at the beginning? I missed that.
Day
and then I
89. Like, this hasn't been happening all that long.
Yeah.
Those kids would be on leashes.
Oh, yes.
They'd be locked in the house in quiet boxes. Like, there'd be no running around because then he gets up on a stool and starts shaking all around. Like,
well, my question is, where is J-Kraz? The reason they're in this pharmacy is that the middle child, there's a girl who's like a teen, and then a slightly younger boy, and then a little boy, a little baby boy, like a 4-year-old. And the middle child's very sick, and they're there to get him antibiotics. Meds. Which, can I just say, there's a moment at the beginning where she's sort of, Emily Blunt, his mom, is going through the bottles on the shelf, and she's just very carefully moving the bottles.
Scary.
And there's one where she knocks it a little bit, and it shakes, and I jumped out of my skin. This is in the first 60 seconds of the film.
By the way, my movie theater, I don't know about yours, mine was so quiet.
Me
like
too.
People weren't even eating popcorn. It was so silent.
It was great. And I saw this, by the way, at the Times Square Regency at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. To have that movie-going experience be almost completely silent is something I've never experienced. There was one moment when, we'll get to the moment later, somebody went, "Oh shit!" at a very quiet moment, which I think no horror movie
I like that. I like that
in New York City. But anyway, the reason they're there is to get the thing, and so I understand that Emily Blunt is busy attending to the sick boy.
Right.
But where is J-Kraz in all this?
I think he went off to get supplies. Like they divided and conquered.
Well, then teen girl should have been paying attention to little baby.
Yeah, maybe she was supposed to be, but I don't know. I literally would have them tied to my body.
They're just kids. I know. Well, it's hard.
It's day 89.
It's 89. I know. One of them's like dying of the flu. He gets better.
Yeah.
The flu,
Which also, this and future things. Is Emily Blunt a doctor?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Because later we see her, she's like taking her own blood pressure.
Yeah, I think she's a doctor.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
A medical professional. But we never know for sure.
Well, anyway, so they leave. Little boy finds a rocket.
Yeah.
John Krasinski says, no rocket. And takes the batteries out, leaves it behind. Teen sister is like, just take the rocket. Hands him the rocket. They leave. Unbeknownst to the family, little baby boy brings the batteries and puts them back in the
Bad
toy.
idea. We should establish right now that the teen sister, crucially, is actually deaf. We see right away that she has a cochlear implant, which we later find out is defunct in this new world. But this is very important because the family is able to communicate with one another in sign language.
Yes.
Because they've presumably always spoken it because of their daughter.
Totally. So interesting, too. I feel like this movie, the cochlear implant thing, all of these videos online showing people hearing for the first time with a cochlear implant, like that's become a very popular video trend on YouTube. And I never knew what a cochlear implant was before that. So I feel like the world has become educated as to what a cochlear implant is. Mm-hmm. And so that could be a part of this movie.
We're at a moment of enough cultural awareness that is an effective signpost for us. Absolutely.
Yes. I also, Doug, obviously, I thought the sound design in this movie was brilliant, which it should be for a movie that's about silent, but that could have really gone wrong. And I really liked from the beginning that when you were sort of her point of view, the sound was different from, even the silence was different from the silence. There was like ambient noise for everyone else that she didn't experience.
It's when you hear hers, it's almost what it sounds like if you plug your ears.
Yeah, if you put
if you put noise, just sort of a heavy static.
I'm trying to do it to the mic right now, but I don't think it's working.
Oh God, the sound in this movie, we could go on forever. But every sound is so loud and not even that it's loud, but you just are so attuned to every little sound. Right. And you think about how sharp your hearing would become if you were in this world. You set us up for it. They start their journey back home. I assume they've all come here as a family because they don't want to leave the kids at home alone.
I guess.
But so they're walking in a line. We have John Krasinski. He's carrying the sick boy, and then Emily Blunt just got a backpack on, and then there's
daughter,
sweet teen girl, and little baby boy with his toy rocket that he has.
Makes a noise.
It makes a noise. They go across. They're walking across the bridge. We stop dead, and we hear, little toy sounds. Pew, pew, pew. This is a cool moment. Like, everybody turns around, and the teen girl just hasn't heard anything, doesn't yet know anything's wrong, just sees her family turn around, and she's like, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Emily Blunt's hands go up to her mouth. She knows it's over. J-Kraz sets down. He's carrying the other son. Runs so fast. This part was in the trailer. Runs so fast. Like, he's just running. He's looking, and we see something in the trees next to him, kind of like in the ritual.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, like, when swimmers are swimming and they're looking to their right and left. When you're, like, running and you're, like, looking to see if you're
like,
faster.
He's running so fast.
He's
like,
running
it's not
so
possible
fast.
for him to run faster, trying to get to the little baby boy, and at the last possible second, what happens?
Creature eats him or knocks him over, grabs him.
The little baby boy gets eaten!
Boy. I loved it.
Callie, did you think this was going to happen?
Never in a million years.
No.
From the trailer, I thought for sure they would grab him and then run away and hide and whatever.
They faked us out.
Loved it.
They faked us right on out. I was like, oh, shit.
I said out loud, holy shit.
Yeah, it was that kind of moment.
Oh my God. And also, okay, so in the moment when the noise is being made, Emily Blunt just stands there and puts her hands up to her mouth as if, like, not to scream. And I was kind of like, do something, run as well. And then I realized she knows it's already over. Like, they're too fast. Yeah. And she knows that she's about to see her kid. Because by the time John Krasinski almost gets to him, she has, like, crumpled to the ground. Yeah. And it was like, I, like, gave myself goosebumps just now thinking about that. She knows that it's over. Like, she's about to see her kid get killed. She knows it.
So sad. And poor J-Kraz doesn't, he still makes a valiant effort. I mean, it's probably a good thing that he didn't get to the little boy because he just would have gotten eaten at the same exact time.
Or he could have thrown the rocket, maybe. I thought that's what was going to happen.
Maybe.
He was going to get there, grab the rocket, and throw the rocket.
I think it was too, like, instinctive. I think he was just like, get to kid.
Oh, I think so too, but I think once if he had, like, scooped him up, he would have thrown the rocket.
If he had time, but nope, these critters, which we haven't seen the critters yet, but they're, like, spindly.
No, but I just thought that was an awesome opening.
Oh,
really
so
good.
It was a great cold open. And, I never have I been so happy to see a 4-year-old child murdered. At the beginning of a movie.
That makes me happy all the time.
Not happy, but, excited for what lay ahead. So we flash forward and it's 435 days?
Yeah.
Into the crisis, so it's like a little over a year.
Yeah, Emily Blunt's braid is about, like, a year old.
That's how we decided. Well, more significantly, Emily Blunt is preggo.
Yeah.
Her ego
but
is
I was
prego.
more interested. Her ego is prego. That's one doodle that can't be undid, home skillet.
6 degrees of separation. It's Dwight that says that.
There we go. Juno.
Anyway, we see that our family lives on a farm. They're just sort of, like, bopping around. We see sort of how they've survived. J-Kraz puts down sand so they can walk through the woods without stepping on twigs and shit. Mm-hmm. They always are walking around barefoot, which makes me so nervous. They have painted marks on the floor so they know where to step. That won't make the floor squeak.
So here's not a criticism, more of just like, I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but their house is extremely well equipped. How do you equip a home like this without making noise?
I was wondering that specifically about marking the squeaky spots on the floor.
Yeah.
Because how would you know unless...
I thought about it specifically. This occurred to me. Exactly. How would you know unless you squeaked them? Is a very good question. When their kids are playing Monopoly, I thought it was, like, a lovely touch that they're playing with felt pieces.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought the little details were so cool in this. But how did they even gather up the little metal pieces?
Very
like,
carefully,
quietly,
I guess.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like it would have taken so long to get rid of anything noise-making in your house, and...
Yeah, it would have been tough.
Anyway, again, willing to suspend disbelief, but I was just like, how?
Yeah, how? Well, we also learned that John Krasinski, I guess he's a farmer because they live on a farm, but he also seems
or
to
maybe
be some
they,
kind
like,
of...
took that house over once the whole thing went down.
Maybe, but it has, like, kids... Who knows?
That's
true. But
who cares?
But J-Kraz seems to be some kind of an engineer. He's very savvy technologically because he keeps tinkering in his basement he's trying to make a functioning cochlear implant for his daughter because hers has stopped working, and so he wants her to be able to hear. This occurred to me too. At first I was like, oh, maybe it's like wait until dark or hush and it would be helpful to be deaf in this situation. No, it would not.
No.
It absolutely would not. It would be like if you can't feel pain. This happens if people have, like, a thing where they can't feel pain. They have to be really careful because they can hurt themselves really bad and not even know it. It's the same thing. Like, you would make noise. You wouldn't even be able to gauge.
I do wish that more had been made of the fact that they survived. Theoretically, they were probably aided in survival because they spoke American Sign Language.
Yeah.
And,
I wanted to see more ASL, I gotta say. There wasn't as much as I thought there was going to be.
I just wanted there to be more of that. Like, I wish there had been a moment between the daughter and Emily Blunt or something where she was like, we're all so lucky that you're deaf or something.
Yeah,
like, you helped us live through this or whatever. But that didn't really happen. And
no, there was a lot of sadness instead.
Yeah.
Because we learn, after we've seen, you know, the way their house kind of functions, we see them have a meal together. We see that there's a lot of tension between the daughter and J-Kraz. Emily Blunt tells her to go get him for dinner, and she's like, I don't want to. And she's like, just go. We learn that the little girl feels that J-Kraz blames her for the death of the little baby boy.
Yeah.
Possibly he does a little bit. We kind of get the sense that J-Kraz is being a little withholding with her, although he's still trying to help her here. So those are the emotional stakes at the top of this.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of sad. Oh, and as we've stated, Emily Blunt is pregnant as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
And we see that they're sort of equipping themselves for the birth of the child in a fucked up way.
I totally was like, how are they going to bring a baby? There's no way to have a baby in this world.
Well,
and
they're
actually
trying.
What they do is pretty smart.
Yeah.
The box that you put the baby in.
So they set up
but
like
I don't know. What if the baby starts crying and you have to feed it? Like when you take it out of the box.
What if something's wrong? Like they've decided that they're going to hook up the baby to an oxygen mask and put it in a box, like a coffin, basically. And you know,
and they've made the basement soundproof,
as soundproof as they can.
Right.
You know, they've got like a mattress over the cellar door.
Well, okay. Here's another thing. Kind of skipping around. So there's this moment when the son and father go fishing together, and the son's very scared and blah 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 blah. You've all seen the movie, I hope. But basically, John Krasinski uses this opportunity to explain one of the key tenets of the film to us, to the viewer, really, which is that they are drawn to what is the loudest sound.
Yes,
the creatures.
Correct.
You can scream if there is something louder nearby.
Yes.
So that begged the question to me, why not play really loud music or something all the time? I guess the creature would destroy whatever the root of the sound was. But
they're probably smart enough that they would eventually be like, that's not anything. Just like how they leave the river alone.
They do leave the river alone.
They know that that's just sort of always happening.
Huh.
I don't know.
Because that made me, because fireworks.
Right.
So it made me think when the baby cries, have a stereo system set up that you would push a button and it would play music really loud.
But you couldn't have it near you because it would still attract the creatures.
Yeah, it would have to be far away.
It's tough. I don't know.
I wouldn't have made it.
I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have wanted to make it. We've said this before, I think. Yeah. Zombie apocalypse, any kind of apocalypse, just
especially silence apocalypse.
No. It might be nice for
which would you like better, a zombie apocalypse or a silence apocalypse?
Silence apocalypse for sure. Yeah. Because zombies, I don't know. There's just something about zombie apocalypses that make people very brutal. I would have just wanted to be on a farm with J-Kraz. Who, can we just establish right now that J-Kraz is looking finer in this movie
than
he ever has.
Jim glowed up.
Jim glowed right up. I have never been... Look, I watched The Office. I never was a big Jim fan, I have to say. I find him kind of a douchey, boy. I wasn't into it. Oh, has he glowed
I
up?
disagree.
He's got a beautiful haircut.
But God,
he's got
he
a
looks
beard.
so good.
He's a daddy.
He's dad.
Oh,
he's so tall.
God. But he does not have a dad bod.
No. And Emily Blunt is a gorgeous angel.
She's so beautiful.
I wasn't so into the braid because it reminded me of Mother.
Oh, I didn't see Mother.
Ugh. Nobody see it.
Well,
it reminded me of Mother, on the farm with a braid. I was just all right. But I did like that it showed the passage of time.
Yes,
do you know what didn't show the passage of time?
What?
Her highlights, which were pristine.
Still perfect. God,
pristine after 487 days.
Maybe she had some boxes stored up in the shower.
J-Kraz can do anything. He probably gives her highlights.
He rigged up some kind of
She's pregnant. You can't get highlights when you're pregnant.
Really?
No, that's toxic.
Wow, I didn't know. Well, we have covered a lot of important ground here.
I don't know. I just felt like this plot, it's one of those movies where I felt like the plot was kind of secondary to just the vibe.
Yeah, it's
true. They
but
go to the waterfall. The daughter wants to go and he won't let her. And at that point, he's given her a cochlear ear implant that he's trying to fashion for her. He's trying to fix it for her.
Right.
And she's like, it won't work. It never works. And she tries it and it doesn't work. And she's so upset and she goes to the grave of her little brother.
Yeah, she runs away sort of.
Leaving Emily Blunt home alone, which is important. Which again, unattended children.
I know.
No,
but
I'm
she's
sorry.
15. I know.
Day 400.
But she didn't know. She didn't know that she had run off. She's got to do the laundry.
I know, but my mother knew where I was
know.
At every moment of my life. I couldn't walk up and down the stairs without my mom being like, "What are you doing?"
I know.
And I'd be like, "Getting lemonade." And she'd be like, "It's too late for lemonade."
On her mind. She's grieving. She's pregnant. She's got laundry.
Nope. I'd be like, "You're in sight, or we're having a fight." That would have been the mantra of life. I can see you, or you're cruising for a bruising.
I know. Well,
they were running. They were running wild on that farm.
I know they were, especially the daughter, because it's like, well, here's the thing. So the little boy and J-Kraz have gone off because J-Kraz is going to teach the little boy like how to fish and shit, and the little boy doesn't want to go, and the daughter doesn't. At first, I was like, how dare you not let her go just because she's a girl? And then I was like, oh, it's because she's fucking deaf. And that would be a lot more dangerous. So I get it. But that's the thing. It's like this deaf girl's running around this farm.
I know.
She could get into anything. She's in her bedroom snapping her fingers trying to see if she can hear the cochlear implant. I'm like, girl, you don't know how loud that is.
She can't.
What are you doing?
I know. She can't hear anything. I knock things over all day.
I know.
She wouldn't even know if she was knocking things over.
She wouldn't know if she was stomping around. Do these people not snore? Here's an important question.
One of the articles I read was like, what about farting?
It's just a world full of SBDs.
And someone has asked this question to John Krasinski before, which is like embarrassing for that person, even though I'm bringing it up on this podcast. Wow. But I guess the little boy, not the one who got killed, but the other little boy, the actor, was very inquisitive on set, and he kept posing questions like that to them. So he'd be like, what if you have to cough? What if you have to burp or whatever? And John Krasinski was like, well, I think the kids would know by now that you have to cough. You pick up a pillow and cough into a pillow. And he was like, so if you have to fart, you fart into a pillow. But like, it's not perfect science.
No. Well, here's one more thing we have to bring up in that vein, because we got to take it to this pervy place. But my friends and I, after we saw it, was like, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
They had very quiet sex. That's tough to do.
Yeah. Speaking of sexiness,
yes,
that dancing scene in the basement
so
with the shared headphones,
they shared headphones
was
and
so
listened
sweet.
to Neil Young and did a little dance. And you know they're really married for real, so it was extra
I know.
sweet.
Well, speaking of that, I felt like that actually really helped this movie because they were silent. There was a moment towards the beginning when Emily Blunt was hanging up some laundry or something farmish, and I was thinking, this kind of reminds me of Mother. Don't love that. And then I was like, but I do like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, despite the fact that they have not spoken yet. Yeah. And I felt like you had to cast actors that people already like.
That's really interesting.
And I felt like it really helped that they're already married, and that had like built-in brand equity for them, where I was like, oh, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are so lovable, and they're actually married.
You're already
and, like,
really invested
you're
in
really
them
invested
as a couple.
in them because they could be total douchebags. We never hear them talk.
That's
the
so
only thing we know about them is they're people with children.
That's so interesting. I mean, I think that was one of the reasons we were all so excited about it. Was like, oh, J-Kraz, never seen him do something like this before. The intersection of celebrity and our cognitive associations therein.
Because he's a lovable guy. But imagine if they had cast the guy who played Dwight, who I love, Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, but no.
But you'd probably be like, oh, that guy. You know what I mean? Our brains just filled in a lot of the gaps, I think, about like, they're nice people, they're good people, they're smart people.
In love.
They're in love. That sort of thing.
That's a good point.
Anyway,
that's interesting. So where are we? So he's off with the boy, and we learn the thing that you told us about a louder sound has to happen.
Yeah.
He takes the boy as a treat to a waterfall where you can be as loud as you want because the waterfall is so loud, and they have one
I would spend all my time there singing. Yeah. I'd go through the whole Hamilton
my friend
album.
Was like, maybe that's where the baby was conceived.
Oh,
which could be.
Good point. That's where they should keep the baby.
The baby will catch pneumonia and living under a waterfall. But yeah, I know. I don't know. They
near the river. Well, I did think, why don't you set up a home nearer the river?
How are you gonna build a home? I guess you can
like the homesteaders of the.
You can hammer near the river, maybe.
God, you can't hammer.
I don't know.
All right.
But they have a heart-to-heart, one of two, I think just two spoken combos in the film, the little boy, which is so sweet because he's like sticking up for his sister. I love when Sibs get along. We've established this in Play at Night.
He was like, "Do you like my sis?"
Yeah, he was like, well, he asks J-Kraz straight up, "Do you blame her for what happened?" And J-Kraz is like, "No," but he kind of does. It seems like. And then he's like, "Do you love her?" And J-Kraz is like, "Of course."
Yeah.
And the little boy's like, "Well, then you need to tell her," which is so heartbreaking. Like, my parents tell me they love me all the time. Like, to not have heard that from your dad in a year, that's really sad.
That is sad.
Especially after you got your little baby brother killed.
Ugh.
Yeah. So that's
Imagine the rest of that walk home. That would have been
And
awful.
you can't even cry. Like, you can't cry out loud.
No, I mean, I did think the part where the girl, again, she was deaf, so she didn't know how loud she was being, but when she was, like, sobbing and, like, trying to be silent.
She's an amazing actress. This girl, this is only her second movie.
And I thought the little boy was good.
Yeah, they were all good.
They were good. So Mama is home alone. Unbeknownst to her, she's alone, and she's doing laundry. Ugh. And then that nail. Ooh.
She snags her laundry sack on the step and then ends up yanking it up.
Which I totally related to because if I ever get hooked on anything or if I drop something, like, I will not stop and go down a couple steps and unsag myself. I will just pull. Oh, you've seen the way.
8 months pregnant.
You've seen the way. Ditto. Just kidding. You've seen the way I take my computer plug out of the wall.
It's just a solid tongue.
I do not bend down.
Sparks fly.
I just pull until it flies out at me. And so I got it. I was like, yeah, just pull.
No, I understand as well. But unfortunately, it creates a Home Alone situation where there's a nail sticking straight up from the
Home Alone.
from the step. And you know, it's like fucking Chekhov's gun standing there, like somebody's stepping on that nail, and I was already cringing. But
what if no one did?
That would be
even
poor
weirder.
I would argue. But so that's set up. So she leaves. So we have all of our people sort of in separate situations.
They've split up.
Meanwhile, J-Kraz and little boy, this isn't really integral to the plot, but it's just a scary thing that happens. They like stumble upon this house where this old couple has lived. And they then stumble upon, we see that this old woman has been killed, presumably by the creatures. She's kind of eviscerated.
I think so. Her entrails.
Which, like, why didn't they just eat her?
Well, okay.
Wasteful.
I think they're not eating them.
But here's the thing, because later, J-Kraz comes home and sees the bathtub full of blood, and he assumes Emily Blunt has died, and it seems like he thinks that she's been eaten.
But okay, again, read tons of articles.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in one of the, you know how in the basement he has all the notes and things? I'm pretty sure one of the things he has written is, why don't they eat their prey?
Oh.
It's like they're
just
thing
that I didn't pay attention to.
Killing.
That's fucked up.
In the article I read, because I didn't pick up any of this,
yeah.
But in the article I read, it said they are basically aliens. Which, can we talk about the fact that I hate alien horror movies? Yes. We know this. I loved it.
Because it wasn't a big deal that they were aliens.
And it wasn't ghosts, and then you find out it's aliens.
It was just like, where did these creatures come from? I don't know.
Exactly. But so they're aliens, and basically they're not eating. They're trying to make Earth more inhabitable for themselves.
Right.
And they don't like loud noises. So anything that makes a noise, they're just destroying it. But they're not eating it.
Oh, that's so scary. That's very scary to think about. Wow.
But also, Earth makes a lot of noises.
I know, but I guess they don't mind, like, ambient sound. They killed a raccoon.
Yeah, they
did. A little chittery raccoon.
I know.
Anyway, we've stumbled upon this old couple. The old man is very sad. He's very scary looking. And this is a fucked up thing because J-Kraz has his little boy with him and he puts up a finger to his lips. He's like, shush, please don't make a sound.
He puts up a sexy finger too.
Yeah, it's very
He does like a
sultry.
This. He doesn't do a straight finger up like a female.
No.
He does like a
crooked,
no.
Yeah. Ugh, he's so worried all the time. And, of course, the old man selfishly... I mean, I get it. You're sad. You want to die. That's fine.
I know.
But, like, let them get away.
Yeah,
but he doesn't.
Stupid.
He opens his old man mouth and he screams. And then J-Kraz has to pick up the little boy. And this is very upsetting. Picks up the boy and runs and puts him behind a tree to the point where I was concerned he was going to restrict the little boy's breathing because the little boy's like screaming because he's so scared. It's a scary scene and sad.
Yeah.
Here's what I could have done without. Here's why I didn't like it. We're going to skip ahead a little bit, but you've all seen the film. I was thinking, okay, we've set up this thing where the daughter doesn't think that J-Kraz loves her, so he's going to probably sacrifice himself at the end for his kids. That's a likely outcome, I would say. But then I saw this and I said, well, maybe he won't because we've already seen somebody scream to attract the aliens. So I thought they wouldn't repeat that.
Well, maybe it was supposed to show us, like, that works.
But of course that fucking works. You can't even break a glass without an alien coming. Yeah. You can't. A little rocket sound brings the creatures. I don't know. So I was a little bit...
I don't know. Maybe just, like, foreshadowing.
Maybe. I guess. But, I mean, it was a scary scene. The plot of this movie is very simple, very straightforward.
Maybe it was supposed to show that if someone screams, the other people can get away.
Oh, maybe. I think I would have guessed that. I mean, it's fine.
Didn't need it.
The scene was like compelling,
stuff,
but I wish that particular scenario had been fresh to me.
I mean, later. I think it goes more to your point that the plot was not complex at all.
Which I think is a virtue of the movie in general.
Yeah, totally agree. But, it needed scares. By the way, I will say, jump scares off the charts. I know we haven't gotten there yet,
with
but
so little sound.
Whew, even Simon was like, I have never seen you jump like that. Like, I was jumping left and right. Basically, they got me every single jump scare I was not expecting.
You were just so tightly wound the whole movie.
Yeah.
We have now returned. Well, now some shit actually starts to happen for real, though, because we returned to Emily Blunt. She's having a sad moment in her dead son's room, having a good cry, understandably. Very good cry. A very good acting moment from Emily. And oh no, her water breaks. So she's like, I don't know. She goes downstairs to the basement. It's unclear what she's going to do in the basement.
Turn the red lights on.
Oh, I thought the red lights were to tell them if the perimeter had been violated.
I think the red lights were to signal any sort of emergency. Oh, so I think she's like pregnant. Yeah. Thundercats or go.
Thundercats. Juno! Yeah. Well, of course, on her way down those basement stairs, what should happen?
She Danny DeVito's.
It's Joe Pesci. It's not Danny DeVito.
I knew that wasn't right. I knew it. As I said, I was like, wait. Joe Pesci's.
She Joe Pesci's. She steps on that nail. This is the only part of the movie that I could not watch. I knew it was coming and I just shut my eyes.
She Danny DeVito. Home Alone would have been just as good with Danny DeVito, arguably.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she steps on the fucking nail. She breaks a glass. I don't know.
And the fact that she
I can't tell you exactly
silent.
what happens. Yes. She just makes a slight, like, it's just the sound of the glass breaking. I can't tell you exactly the sequence of how the glass breaks because I literally did not watch the moment.
Oh, I did. She steps on the nail and it hurts so bad she drops the picture frame that's in her hand. She has a picture frame of her and her son in her hand, and she drops it. And it shatters on the ground. Okay. And the worst part was her getting the foot off the nail.
I know. She has to take her foot off the nail. Oh, God. I didn't watch any of it. But
part of me was also like, okay, well, that will distract you from your pregnancy pain.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like when you
I had the opposite reaction.
Slap a mosquito bite.
Shit, now you're pregnant and your foot hurts.
Yeah, that was probably more realistic. Yeah. I was like, look on the bright side.
No, you gotta.
At least you can't feel the pain in your uterus.
But she turns on the lights. She starts going back up the stairs, and then there's a critter. She sees that there's a critter.
Oh, that part was so scary.
Yeah. Now, this part, we can get into the creatures now.
Yeah.
I thought they were good. We've talked on this podcast before about it's hard to do the creatures well.
Yeah, these weren't no chicken foot. Tiny hands, Grim Reaper tree man.
They were very reminiscent of the xenomorph from Alien to me. Also, the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. The coolest thing about them is they have these really big, gross ears that like kind of click and tick, and you can see their inner workings as they
were very similar to the Demogorgon.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it didn't bother me, but it was like unmistakably close to the Demogorgon.
I had actually forgotten about the Demogorgon until somebody brought it. My friend that I saw with brought it up afterwards. But it is pretty uncanny to look at. They both have those kind of floppy
and the like mouths that sort of open like a Venus flytrap or whatever.
But if it ain't broke.
Yeah.
But the ears were the real thing that set it apart and that I was impressed with. So I liked these creatures as far as creatures go. And I also liked that we saw them pretty early in the movie because I always think it's like a little bit of a letdown when we're waiting for the whole movie to see them.
Yeah.
And they end up being a weird antelope beast like in The Ritual. Anyway, so she does a very clever thing. She says an egg timer to go off somewhere else, and it goes off, and she's able to like run up the stairs. Oh God!
Also, when she was like doing that, I had no idea what her plan was. I was like, what?
Oh, I was like, is she gonna like throw it? And then like, but what she did was smarter than what I was thinking she was gonna do. These are savvy people.
Meanwhile, she's just, like, having contractions, and Emily Blunt is such a good actress.
She's so good. I have to say, and I love J-Kraz. J-Kraz is a lovable personality, and he does what he needs to do in this movie, and he's hot, and he's just likable. But Emily Blunt is a tremendous actress. Yeah. I think in a way that is a little bit different from what we're getting from J-Kraz, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I was more taken with her acting than I didn't have as many moments with him of this, but also this is an extremely hard thing to act. I mean,
and he's also directing.
Giving birth silently.
Yes. So she sets herself up in the bathtub, and
Another
there's
smart
blood
move.
coming out of her nether regions down the drain, and we see her just in there. I mean, this is what is so effective about these monsters, is that they can be so close to you, but not know that you're there, because apparently they don't smell you either. Like, all it is sound. So it's just like really good tension building is being done. So she's in this bathtub trying not to scream as these contractions take over. Meanwhile, J-Kraz and little twitchy boy show up. They see the red lights are on, and J-Kraz charges the little twitchy boy with making a larger sound, which is sweet because the twitchy boy's been so twitchy and scared the whole time. And he's like, I'm going to help my mom. And he goes and he sets off some fireworks. Right at the very moment that Emily Blunt cannot hold in her screams anymore, saves her life.
So good.
The little girl, teen girl, hears the sounds. By the way,
the fireworks.
They all have names. Oh, she doesn't hear them. You're right. She sees them.
She sees
Oh my
them.
gosh, that was so ableist of me. She sees them, and she runs. I didn't even think about that. That's so fucked up, Callie.
No,
I literally just didn't think about that. But anyway, so she runs. So all the gang's getting back together again. J-Kraz, this is a nice acting moment that he has, because he just sees a bloody bathtub, and he seems to believe that Emily has expired somewhere. And he is sort of having this moment of grief. And then, is this the jump scare that you were talking about?
I mean, there were so many, but the Titanic hand against the shower,
bloody hand.
Jumped.
And he opens it, and they have a nice moment. And there is the baby. She's had the baby, and he's alive. He carries them both to the soundproof cellar. There's a really tense moment where the baby starts crying, like, before he gets there.
Yes.
Which, it's convenient because sometimes these monsters seem to be lightning quick, and sometimes they just sort of mosey.
Read about that, too. That it's like, do the monsters move at the speed the movie requires them, like, needs them to in any given moment? Yes. Doesn't matter?
No.
And also, like, maybe it's based on different sounds. Like, a sudden sound versus, like, a...
Right, like an organic sound.
Yeah.
Because, like, the rocket is very clearly a man-made sound, whereas, like, baby crying is, like, an animal sound. So
they get downstairs, and then they have an out loud spoken conversation about protecting their children. Who are we if we can't protect them?
Yeah, we find out Emily Blunt also has been carrying around a lot of guilt because she had her hands free and she didn't carry the little 4-year-old boy. It's hard to carry a 4-year-old fucking child. Yeah, they're heavy, and she had a heavy backpack on.
And she was like, he was heavy. He was so small, but he was heavy. Yeah. I liked that.
I mean, what's interesting about this is it really seems like everybody... J-Kraz has said it was nobody's fault earlier, and it kind of is everybody's fault because Emily could have been carrying him. The little boy was sick. They wouldn't have been there if he hadn't been sick. J-Kraz couldn't run fast enough. They all share a part of it. And of course, in the end, it's mostly the little girl's fault, but...
Yeah, and, like, also the little boy's fault for bringing up the matters. And
let's give him the bulk of it. He
the
was
creature's fault.
In the creatures. Let's not victim blame.
Yeah. So anyway, fireworks go off, screaming. This part of the movie, I felt like there was a lot of action, but it might have been my least favorite part of the movie when all this action stuff kicked in. And I'll tell you why. I feel like because I just was like, how big is this farm? Like, kids just go home. I don't know. Like,
well,
I guess they were scared of running into the creatures, but I was like, but just go home.
Well, they were waiting for J-Kraz to come and collect them because they were scared. So what happens is, this is the part in the theater when somebody went, oh shit, because the little girl is like peering out somewhere and there's a creature behind her.
Yes.
And she doesn't know because
in the
she
cornfield.
Can't hear it.
Yes, which is so freaky, and also why it would be horrible to be deaf in this situation.
And this is where an important thing happens, because her cochlear implant, as soon as this creature gets close, apparently the creatures give off some kind of frequency. I don't know if it's like echolocation or what.
Well, there was also like the whole thing. Did you notice whenever the creatures were around, the lights flickered?
Oh, I didn't notice that. No.
So there was some kind of, they were giving off some
magnetic
sort of
something. So the thing starts squealing, and the creature doesn't like it. The cochlear implant starts squealing. The creature doesn't like it, so it leaves her alone. And she runs into a little baby boy who's gotten lost because he ran off. And
oh man, when the little boy when she's near the tractor and the little boy grabs her arm.
Oh, it was so scary.
Jumped out of my seat.
Then it was so cute because they hugged.
I know. It was nice.
They go up to the top of this grain silo and light a fire. There's a system of fires, and I couldn't tell if it was like J-Kraz was lighting them all from the one place or if it was to see the other families.
I think it was to see the other families.
Yeah.
So at this point, no other family lights their shit.
But that doesn't make any sense to me because the only reason that the creatures have come to the Emily Blunt, John Krasinski farm is because Emily Blunt made a sound.
I know, but maybe it's just supposed to be that
or maybe
over.
They just don't know because it's nighttime and they're asleep. It doesn't matter.
I wish I knew, though.
Yeah.
But I think it was, in my mind, I'm just going to go with all the people are dead.
Okay. I don't think I'm there.
They're
with
the
you,
last surviving family.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't work. The little girl's like, I'm going to go home. Fuck this. And the little boy's like, no, we got to wait for Dad. And she's like, Dad's not going to come for me. He only loves you. Which, come on.
Teen angst.
Now
it's
is not the
time
time for your angst.
Yeah.
And little boy, and this was really scary. The little boy takes a bad step and falls through the grain silo into the grain. And it takes the girl a minute to notice because she can't hear that this has happened.
Yeah.
So that was scary. And this really freaked me out because a couple of years ago, NPR did a series of reports about deaths that happen on farms in grain silos. And it's very common and it's very poorly regulated. And so OSHA is getting involved and trying to establish better regulations.
From people falling into those things?
It is they work in the grain silos somehow. And if the safety regulations aren't in place, it's very, very easy to fall in and die. It's like quicksand.
Yikes.
It's very easy to drown in grain. So it's a real thing. So I was thinking about that, getting very scared. So this little boy, they have another Titanic moment where he's drowning in the grain.
It was totally Titanic.
She ends up knocking
one of the doors
falls,
sort of,
into the thing, and they both are able to sit on the
I was like, oh look,
live.
Titanic.
Yeah.
He's on the door and she's
gonna
drowning.
But he saves her. They save each other. And then a creature comes for them, but her cochlear implant, saves the day.
Right.
Meanwhile, J-Kraz has found them. They have a very sweet reunion moment. A lot of stuff happens very quickly at this point.
Yeah.
Now, and at this point, I'm worried for J-Kraz because I already said I kind of predicted that he might need to sacrifice himself. But after Emily Blunt and he have had this heart-to-heart where Emily's like, promise me that you will protect them, it's kind of like, oh no.
What?
Just like, that sets up some stakes.
I know.
Like, something's going to have to happen. But before we get to that,
yeah,
some shit's going down with Emily and the new baby.
Water. So
By the way, can I just say really quick?
Yes.
They have put the baby into
the box.
The box. With he's crying, they put the thing on the oxygen mask and they put him in the box. It was deeply, deeply distressing to see that image. That was really upsetting to me. To see them put a baby in a fucking box. That's like some horrific abuse under any other circumstance.
Yeah, you should definitely not see Mother.
Oh, God.
Some bad things happen to a baby.
But I don't know. But I'm sure it was very upsetting for them to put the baby in the box.
Yeah, but more upsetting was like tie a string around that baby's ankle and tie it to your body.
I know.
I just didn't like the space in betwine mother and child.
I know.
Because then Emily Blunt wakes up and the basement that they've created is filling with water because of a pipe. So when they are bringing the baby back to the basement and it starts making noises, the creature kind of moseys up and then it freaks out and destroys their house. So when he goes back up, he sees that everything is like not ransacked, but like destroyed. Everything's overturned and blah, blah, blah. And there's a pipe broken from where it bursts out of their house and the pipe is flooding into the basement.
That sucks.
So I mean, poor Emily Blunt. She has just given birth.
And I'm like, oh my God, her foot. She's putting her
foot.
tetanusy foot into that goddamn dirty
and she
pipe
has
water.
to get up. And then when the creature goes under the water, it was very Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, both.
Yeah.
I thought
it was scary
for a split moment because the lid is off the thing and you cannot see the baby.
I thought the baby was dead.
I was like, it ate the baby. I was like, what is happening?
I know. I was like, oh my God, the baby's dead. That's
I couldn't believe it. And I was right not to believe it because it wasn't the case.
Baby was in there.
Baby was in there just squirming around.
Yeah.
Emily picks him
up
very
quiet.
carefully. Yeah. But it was really scary too. Like, it's impossible not to make noise in water.
True.
You like splashing around. I mean, she was moving carefully. Whatever. So this part was pretty tense and scary also.
But then she goes essentially behind a waterfall. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, they set that up nicely for us.
That's good.
I forget, why does the creature leave her?
Because something else is making noise.
Is it because when J-Kraz yells?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, that's, takes us to our sort of climactic moment here, which is that the creatures are pursuing them. The kids go to hide in the car. J-Kraz is going to hit one of them with an axe. J-Kraz gets a swipe to the tum, which really does a lot of damage, we learn in a moment. And the little boy, poor little sweet baby boy, screams dad, cannot help himself. And then the creature comes for them in the car. Here's a sad moment. The cochlear implant is protecting them, but it is hurting the little girl's ears, so she turns it off, which then makes the creature even more inclined to come for them.
Yeah.
Here,
I hated this part.
It was sad. J-Kraz stands up. He's all hurt. He throws away his axe. You're like, fuck, we know what you're about to do, you noble bastard.
Yeah.
And he signs, I love you. I have always loved you.
Oh, it's so sad. And then he screams.
And the creature comes and gets him.
He dies.
And the kids drive away. It was kind of like the only ending that there could have been for him at this point, but it was, I was hoping it wouldn't
bummed
happen.
Out.
I was sad. Yeah. It was really sad.
Well, because, okay, now, I feel like I always think about this, like, after the end.
Yeah.
And now they live in a silent, poor Emily Blunt lives in silence.
With these fucking kids.
With kids running all around and a baby.
He never even taught the kid how to fish properly.
They're not going to make it.
Well, but are they? Because
That's right.
Something good happens after this. They make it home. Emily Blunt is very happy to see them. Obviously very sad about J-Kraz.
She watches the whole thing go down.
That was sad as fuck, but also I thought very clever. They have a series of security cameras that you can see in the basement, that are set up to monitors in the basement, and so she's watching it. That would have been horrific to watch. But also it was a really nice way of keeping her involved in the story, even though they were in separate locations.
Yeah,
I really liked that because I was a little bit worried, since this was a J-Kraz vehicle, that Emily's character was going to sort of become secondary, like a supportive wife character, and I felt that she got her own sort of storyline throughout and remained a very strong presence. So that was good. So they end up going to the basement, not the flooded basement, but the tool shed basement where all the tinkering has been happening. The little girl hasn't been down here before. She hasn't been allowed. I think the kids just haven't been allowed because there's too much stuff that can make sound.
It's like the one place they're not allowed to stomp around.
But they're waiting for the creatures to come get them.
The girl discovers the cochlear implant thing, basically. And they kill a creature.
Well, she ends up using the big radio, like a big microphone radio system to like amplify the sound of the thing, to incapacitate the creature, and then Emily Blunt shoots it with a shotgun. Then we see over the monitors that all of these other creatures
There's two
are
more,
coming.
right? There's three.
There's like a few more.
Yeah.
And they're coming. And Emily Blunt, Callie is making a gun cocking motion.
I liked that.
Emily Blunt just looks at her daughter knowingly. Roll credits.
Yeah, I liked that.
I have to say, I loved that the end of this movie was the two women in the family getting ready to kick ass while the little boy held the other
baby.
Little boy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And, I needed that moment of sort of a little bit of cheekiness because it was otherwise a huge
also,
bummer.
Emily Blunt just had a baby.
I know, but she's got to protect all her other babies.
It's true. It
seemed like a pretty easy birth. I mean, it happened
fell out
fast. It was her fourth kid.
Yeah.
So,
it just walked out.
So that was A Quiet
Quiet Place.
What's she going to rate it, Cal?
I give it 4 stars.
Oh.
I think it was 3.5, rounded up to 4.
Okay.
Here's the thing. It was really hyped, and I don't necessarily think it lived up to the hype. Even afterward, I met up with some friends, and my friend was like, oh my God, you saw A Quiet Place? I hear it's phenomenal. And I was like, I wouldn't describe it. I didn't say this to him, but I was like, yeah, it was great. But I wouldn't describe it as phenomenal. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really strong, really interesting premise. Again, there were parts that I was like, oh, I wish they would have made more about the family being able to speak in sign language. I wish that the daughter being deaf had a cooler impact versus like her cochlear ear implant. I wish being deaf had some more inherent benefit that was just like she had the power within her to defeat them, not like a sound thing. Oh, speaking of the sound thing though, I know we could go on and on about the design, the sound design, but one thing that I was like, damn, that is impressive. Making what's the word when feedback, the sound of feedback, which they were responding to, making that bearable in a movie where you can tell that it's painful and it's a bad noise, but where you're not yourself like, ugh, that noise was like pretty great.
Bearable, but still annoying.
Yeah.
It's a good balance that they struck, for sure.
So yeah, I give it 3.5, but I'll round it up to 4.
Gotta round it up or down.
Gotta round it up. I'm gonna round it up to 4.
Okay.
And in terms of ghost faces, I'm gonna give it 3. The jump scares were great, but I just was medium scared.
Okay.
For most of it.
I'm gonna go a little bit higher than you on both counts. I am gonna do it.
5 stars?
I'm gonna give it a 5. Yeah, now, I would probably give it a 4.5 and round it up to a 5 as well. Because there were some things I wish that we hadn't seen the old man thing. Like, that gave away the thing for me a little bit. I agree I would have liked to see more ASL. And I think I'm not so interested in, like, the noble white guy narrative at this point. That's not to say it wasn't a worthwhile story or, you know, it wasn't effective.
Like if the daughter had screamed.
Oh God, I'm glad she didn't. No, I mean, his sacrifice was kind of predictable. I called it pretty early, you know, whatever. But I don't know. This movie felt fresh and creative, and it was such a rich world created in 96 minutes in such a short amount of time. I was so invested in everybody. I loved that this story was, I think, as much the girl's story as it was J-Kraz's.
Yeah.
She was sort of our protagonist in a lot of ways. I just thought I had a fucking blast at the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I enjoyed it.
So I know that, like, I feel like M. Night Shyamalan is kind of controversial. I feel like not everybody enjoys his movies.
Most of them.
I really like his movies. I really liked Signs. I really loved, of course, The Sixth Sense. I liked The Village. I loved Signs. This had a lot of signs in it to me.
Yeah.
And I liked that. The ability to build a world in a short amount of time, I think, is a strength. And to build rules and conventions that we're supposed to believe in a really short amount of time without just all of it being explanatory, you know, tell. I thought like Signs did a really good job of that. And
story.
This did a good job of that.
I haven't seen Signs in a long time. I don't remember caring for it very much. But one thing that I will say on sort of the negative side of that is both of the movies share this quality of finding a really simple, obvious solution to the problem that's like, nobody figured that out. Like, water destroys the aliens? Like, high-pitched sounds get them to leave you alone? So, I mean, maybe that is like a slight detriment to the movie,
in Signs, M. Night Shyamalan's character does figure out that water kills the aliens because he has a cameo. He has a cameo in all his movies.
He's the doctor that killed the wife, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm going to a lake because I heard they don't like water.
Oh.
And no one really, it's sort of just like this passing moment.
Interesting. I don't remember.
With Mel Gibson.
Clearly.
Fucking Mel Gibson.
Well, there you go. That's another reason not to like Signs. But I won't talk about it.
All right, but that's like pre-awful Mel Gibson. And also Cherry Jones.
I forgot
we
about
gotta like Cherry.
Oh my God. Okay. Fair enough. Look.
Listen, this podcast is not about Signs.
It's not about Signs.
But
the point is I really liked A Quiet Place. You know, enough little gripes that I would maybe give it a 4.5. But all in all, I gotta round it up because I just had a ball at the movie. Scariness. This is tricky for me because I actually thought it was very, very tense and suspenseful. It did a great job with the jump scares and building the atmosphere that was scary. So I really want to give it a 4. I think I am going to give it a 4, but with the caveat that I think even if you don't like horror movies, it's the kind of scariness that will be palatable to you. I've spoken to at least one person I know who really doesn't like scary movies and made it through this because it's more of a suspense thriller action movie than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, like, violence, really. You know, there's no that sort of thing. The worst thing is the
nail in the foot.
The nail in the foot, yeah.
But I still think it was scary. It was really tense. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4, but it's just a different kind of scariness than you might be accustomed to as a horror fan.
True. It's not like The Conjuring. Different kind of scary.
That's a different kind of scary, yeah. This is like I don't know. This is like a scary that people can stomach.
Like Signs?
I guess this movie is basically Signs is the conclusion that we're coming away with, for better or worse. So that's it. So next week we're going to watch Pontypool.
Oh, I was like, I have no idea. Oh, yeah. We're watching Pinty Town.
Yeah, so do that. And
zombie movie. So another kind of post-apocalyptic.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we're doing back-to-back apocalypses, I guess. But I'm not sure exactly what Ponty Town is.
You know what's kind of interesting? What? Sorry to go back to A Quiet Place.
No, go ahead.
I mean, we never met anyone else besides the man who screamed.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
You know, this movie really could have And I think it's for the better that it didn't, but it really could have gone the way of a lot of post-apocalyptic movies where you meet all these other people and you'll meet the people in the town, or more people come to their house to try and live with them and, you know, that sort of thing. It was kind of nice that it was like about the family unit.
That's often what I like about post-apocalyptic stuff, because I like to see what happens when people who normally wouldn't associate with one another are forced to, and what kind of relationships form. However, I did really like seeing a family union, and it was important to do so because it just is occurring to me now, in this particular kind of apocalypse, the more people you have, the more dangerous the situation becomes. There is not strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was good. It was
recommend
good.
it. Go see it if you haven't seen it, if you want to, after all these damn spoilers.
Yeah. It's crazy. People are going crazy for this movie. Proud of John Krasinski.
Me too. Good job, Jake.
I don't know if it's... Is that funny when people say, I'm proud of this person, and they have absolutely nothing to do with it?
It's the same thing that made us inclined to be invested in him and Emily Blunt's characters. It's like we feel invested in these people. Yeah. Especially for somebody from a show like The Office, which is so much about, like, everyday people.
But I mean, just more generally... Is it weird to say you're proud of someone for something you had nothing to do? I've thought about this before.
Well,
I'm like, I'm proud of her.
It's a little weird, but I don't know. I think you end up, especially if you connect with someone's work, if it moves you, you end up feeling a connection with them, even if it's only on one side.
Well, I'm proud of them, and I will say that if John Krasinski and Emily Blunt ever go the way of Chris Pratt and Anna Faris, I don't know what I'll do.
I know.
At least we'll always have a quiet place.
But they don't have as many annoying...
Channing Tatum and Jennifer Tatum.
I don't know who his wife is, except that she's very beautiful and can dance very well. But yeah, let's pray for J-Kraz and Emily Blunt.
Yes. One of my favorite things about them is that they have a prank war with Jimmy Kimmel.
Really?
Yeah, you need to YouTube this. Everyone YouTube this.
Well, I do have to say that, you know, it's been kind of a long haul for J-Kraz post The Office. He really hasn't had a lot of luck, especially compared to Emily, who's had hit after hit after hit. So I'm very happy for him that...
Yeah, it's so awesome.
This is such a success.
Also, it's just great that horror movies are, I don't know, becoming such hits at the box office. I mean, Get Out was like a massive commercial success.
Because they have something to say about society.
Yeah.
Like, what scares people?
Yeah.
What is compelling and frightening to people reflects very strongly on what we as a culture value and fear.
Yep.
And I think that's a worthwhile thing to explore.
I'm stoked to see that this is having like such commercial box office success. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And it's getting people who might not like horror.
I know. I think my mom could watch this movie.
My mom loves this movie. She likes horror.
Yeah, mine does not. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for that.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at ScreamGirlsPod. Follow us on Instagram at ScreamGirlsPod, or send us an email at screamgirlspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, send us recs for movies you want us to watch.
Yeah, give us some feedback.
Don't talk to us about our vocal fry.
We know. We already know.
Okay.
There's one more thing. Go on iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe, and tell your friends to listen to the podcast, because we'd really like them to join us and become our friends too.
Yes.
Okay, bye.